Perfect on time. I'm going to jump right into things here today. So hi everyone. If you haven't met me before, and this is your first workshop, my name is Matt Guerin. I'm been at Guru for over 6 years, an expert in implementations and AI Training Center, KCS methodologies, which we'll talk about a little bit here today, actually. Based out of Collingswood, New Jersey, right outside of our Philadelphia headquarters. And I like to do these fun facts. I'm a big bird person. I like birds a lot, so most of my fun facts are bird related. And today, you can learn that osprey, the fish-eating raptor bird, have small spine-tipped projections called pupillae, I think is how you pronounce it. Actually, I think I actually might have butchered it. On the bottom of their feet, that helps them hold the fish, and you can see a picture of it in the right-hand side. Kind of looks like a starfish. And these are actually unique to every individual osprey, so they're kind of like fingerprints for osprey, which is kind of neat, but it helps them hold the fish that are like super slippery. Anyway, maybe you like birds like me. Let me know in the chat if you found that interesting or not. Here's the agenda for today. Hopefully you'll get more out of today's workshop than just some fun facts about osprey. And here's what we're going to discuss. We're going to do a quick poll and share out so I can kind of learn where you all are at. It'll help inform what I talk about here today. And mostly we're going to be covering sort of 5 key knowledge management principles with tactical advice along the way. So thinking strategically about how you want to approach documentation, but also learning about different features and actual sort of tactics that you can sort of implement in your day-to-day to, come out with some takeaways here today that you can, go ahead and implement right after today's session. Hopefully we'll have time to do a quick breakout group where you all can sort of make a plan together and collaborate on how you want to improve your documentation strategies going forward. Then we'll leave space for sharing those learnings from the breakout groups and ask questions that you may still have. And you'll be free to ask questions along the way. Like I said earlier, pop your questions in the Q&A section, and we'll address those. And there'll also be spaces for questions throughout, which you can put in the Q&A in the chat, or if you would like to speak, just raise your hand and I can unmute you. And then we'll wrap up and head out with some next steps. All right. And as always, the workshop will be recorded and shared out afterwards, generally about an hour or so after the sessions, you'll be able to get access to the recording. Okay. All right, folks. So just at the top, just like to set the stage for what Guru solves for. Guru believes that no matter what your company is, no matter what you do, you need a way to share information, you need a way to document information, and you need a way to find information. And Guru solves for all 3 of those. But obviously today, we're going to be talking about just the documentation part of this. So the middle of this pizza pie, if you will, is where we'll focus today's energies. But we have done other workshops before on sharing information and finding information. So definitely go back and check out previous workshops if you want to learn more about those other pieces to the pyramid. All right, so I'm going to launch a quick poll here and ask Bon if you can help me out on this front. We just want to learn sort of what your biggest challenges are with documentation today. So you should be able to select multiple of these options, but I kind of want to learn from you all where you're having trouble today. So I can maybe spend more time on those specific topics here in this workshop. Or if everybody has problems with everything, then I know to focus my energy, equally distribute my energy in this workshop here today. And if you have an other option, go ahead and pop that other challenge that you might have in the chat to give me a little bit more context around that. And looks like we've got some pretty good participation in here. And most people so far are saying that how to create an organized documentation that is easy for users and AI to understand. That is definitely the most popular topic that we have here today, and I'll definitely spend a good amount of time in today's session discussing how to create an organized documentation that's easy for users and AI to understand. So awesome. This is really great. I'll close out this poll, share the results with you all so you can see what others are saying there. And yes, for folks that had other challenges, definitely let me know. And then I would also love to hear more about a documentation challenge that you're having. So anybody that wants to shed a little bit more light on a specific problem that they're having or an ongoing challenge that they've had, would really love to hear from you. Go ahead and raise your hand, and I can unmute you if you're willing to share, or if you want to pop it in the chat, that's fine too. Just going to take a little bit more time. So is anybody here willing to share out and tell me a little bit more about a a specific documentation challenge that they're having. And while I wait for a hopeful brave volunteer to raise their hand, I'm just going to check the chat here and see that Christine's saying that authors across different teams having different styles when creating cards, which can confuse things. Definitely talk about ways to address that today. Thanks, Christine, for sharing. Um, Michelle, I hear you about version history of cards not being easily exportable. We can definitely take that as product feedback to the team. Um, Phil talking about recently joined an organization as the knowledge base lead. Knowledge base is currently split across multiple tools, multiple authors, no standardization. So we'll talk about some ways to bring standardizations there. PDF printout formats, these are good feedback items. Right size of documentation, figuring out what my team needs to document, what to document, what level of granularity. All right, these are all really, really helpful. I think most of you will find some answers to some of these, or at least some potential answers, potential options to some of these challenges that you're facing in today's workshop. And we can definitely discuss them further in breakout groups. So appreciate you all sharing some of those stories, and let's jump in. Cool. And all right, KM principle number one. And KM is short for knowledge management, just so to address that. Knowledge management principle number one, a knowledge base is never finished. Might seem obvious, right? But I do talk to a lot of folks that are thinking about designing their knowledge base in a way that is going to be appropriate for where they are now, but not necessarily thinking forward. And so you want to create a knowledge organization structure that is actually going to scale, that is going to suit your team as it builds and as your knowledge base expands, as your team grows, as your company grows. You need to have an organization structure that is going to be able to suit that. And so the first thing you want to think about in terms of guru structure is your collections and having those generally sorted by team, product, and or market. A lot of teams have mixes of all three. Most teams generally sort their collections by department and sub-department, because when you're designing your collections, you want to think about who's going to be responsible for it, right? Like who are the actual owners of that collection going to be? Who needs access to that info? And generally it's easiest to break it up by different departments so that you can say, hey, IT team, you're in charge of your IT department, HR team, you're in charge of your HR department, and so on and so forth. But if you have a really complex product, it might make sense for you to have different collections for your different products or your different services. And if you have different markets where there's a high degree of variability between your different processes based on your different markets, then it might make sense for you to have, an APAC market collection versus, an EMEA sort of collection. So definitely all good options there. You just want to think about who's going to be the sort of people that are responsible for the information in that collection and who needs access to that information. And then once you've got that collection structure that's going to scale, so that you can easily add new collections for new teams or new collections for new markets or products. You want to think about the folders inside those collections and how those should be organized. And really easy kind of rule to follow is to, obviously just give them numerical values, along with the title, but, sort of 1 through however many folders you have. You can also use emojis to add some visual distinction there, but you can also descend them in topic complexity. So you're more kind of go-to information that's going to be applicable to most people coming to that collection, you can put in folders that are towards the top. And then the more specific sort of edge case or granular kind of information is going to make sense to file in folders that are a little bit more towards the bottom. That way, just, limit the amount of scrolling, limit the amount of sort of searching to do. And if people know that you've organized all your collections that way in that sort of simple to complex descending order, then it's going to make people's lives a little bit easier in terms of how they're able to browse for information to find what they need inside of a collection. And in terms of creating cards that are built to scale, a really great feature to use is our card templates. And we do have a number of free templates that you can access in our template gallery here. So you can check this out. Espan, if you can maybe grab the link for this and pop that in the chat for me, that would be helpful. Appreciate it. But yeah, you can check out our template gallery there that has templates that Guru's built and other customers have built that can get you started. You can download those right to your instance to see what other teams maybe are doing for certain use cases, certain teams over here. So you can utilize card templates and utilize the free template gallery there, or build your own card templates, and then encourage your authors to use those templates whenever they're creating new content. That'll really help to add uniformity and sort of standardization across your different collections, across your different author bases. So I know folks had already remarked in the chat about that being a challenge, and I think card templates can really help out there. Another thing that can really help out there is titling and content conventions and standards. We'll talk a little bit more about this later too. But designing a card that's like a content style guide or a content standard guide to give your authors something to work with, so that they know sort of what structure they should be aiming for, or what they should include in certain types of cards, how they should title their cards to be optimized for search. These are things that are good to record and train your authors on. The next thing to think about, because the knowledge base is never finished, is that you need to create a contribution structure that is built to scale. What I mean by contribution structure is, how are people going to add to your knowledge base? How are they going to request edits to your knowledge base? And because knowledge itself is decentralized, and what I mean by that is, like, everybody on your team, no matter what role they are learning something new probably every day. And so that knowledge is living everywhere all at once, right? Everyone, everywhere, all at once, like the movie. But so you need to have a way that people can, contribute to that knowledge base. So whenever possible, come up with mechanisms and workflows to allow your author, or to allow your users to contribute to your knowledge base in some way. We'll talk about some specific ways that you can do that shortly. But thinking about that in advance, we're thinking about how you're going to approach how people are going to request edits, or edit cards, or create new cards, is going to be really important to creating a structure that's built to scale. Most teams have experts own content, and the non-experts have a way to request it. A lot of teams go with a knowledge council. We'll talk a little bit more about knowledge councils later on too. It's basically kind of what it sounds like, where a group of people are going to meet regularly to discuss all things related to your knowledge management program. And then getting top-down buy-in and support is going to be really important for a contribution structure that's built to scale as well. Because the more your team grows, right, and the more things change and knowledge changes, you need to have that buy-in from your leadership down to your managers, down to your individual contributors that are bought into a program of knowledge management, that understand that it's part of their job, that understands that it's part of their role, and managers and leadership are encouraging of that. Part of your day-to-day job is sort of recording what you know and contributing to the knowledge base, and understanding that that's going to reap benefits in all aspects of your business. The more you're able to easily share and find the knowledge that you need is critical. So I think that's something that it can be really hard to have a successful knowledge management structure without the buy-in from leadership, or without the buy-in from managers as well. So think about how you can do that buy-in, and we'll talk a little bit more about that soon. And then one more slide here, and then I'll open it up for questions. And because the knowledge base is never finished, another thing you want to think about is prioritizing the most used information. So a lot of people want to get to 100% verification score, want to get to 90% verification score. It's easier said than done. We'll talk to some customers that are actually doing it next week, and it's really remarkable for those customers that are able to do it. But it shouldn't necessarily be your end goal. Your end goal should really be prioritizing your most used information and keeping that information fresh and up to date. Spending time, verifying cards that nobody's using isn't a great use of your time. So spending more time concentrating on the sources and the content that people are going to day in and day out, that people have a regular need for, making sure that information is always up to date, is going to help you allocate your time to the right places, so that you're building a knowledge base that's going to scale well. And you can use the source view in the AI training center. And I'll show that really quick. In the AI training center, here it is. There's this sources view for anybody that's not familiar that's going to show you what sources are helping to answer the most questions. And so you can click on a given source here and you can see all the questions that are being answered by this source. So if you're pressed for time and you can only allocate so many resources and so much time to keeping your information up to date on a day-to-day or weekly basis, coming into the AI training center and using this sources view to make sure that like, okay, this backup wizard product details card is unverified and it's helped answer a lot of questions recently. So I need to make sure that that card's verified and up to date. That's going to be a good exercise for you all to do to focus your energies in the right place. The other thing to think about is creating an archival and cleanup system that's going to work well for your team. So we have auto archive feature inside of Guru, which is really, really helpful for just kind of routine kind of knowledge dusting, I like to call it. So like just cleaning up the stuff that people aren't really using, that people aren't looking at. And so you can set up auto archive rules that say like, hey, if this card's been if cards have been unverified for over 90 days and nobody's looked at it, go ahead and just archive those cards for me so that they're not weighing down your trust score, and so then they're not cluttering up search results. And so sort of having those automatic activities running in the background is going to be really, really helpful. And then thinking about your verification goals, where do you want to keep your verification score at? What's a reasonable expectation for you to have? We encourage the 80% kind of benchmark. But find what's right for you, find what's right for your team, and then figure out how you can achieve that goal by carving out dedicated time to, do verification work, whether that's a little bit of, half an hour every day, 10 minutes every day, whether it's, half an hour at the end of the week, whether it's a big cleanup at the end of the month or the quarter, figure out what's going to work for your team in terms of the sort of audit and review kind of cadence and doing those verification work. We also have a feature called duplicate detection that can show you where your cards are being overly redundant. That can be helpful for cleanup as well, so to make sure that you don't have conflicting information out there. And then you can utilize Card Manager to do routine cleanup as well. So you can go into Card Manager and you can filter for cards that haven't been viewed in 180 days, let's say. So I can come into Card Manager and I can see times viewed, and I can look at cards that have been viewed less than 5 times. And maybe the last viewed date was on or more than 90 days ago. And now I've got a criteria here of 70 cards that haven't been looked at or have been looked at less than 5 times and haven't been looked at in more than 90 days. So maybe these are cards that I can get rid of or consolidate into existing cards. So these are all just tiny kind of mechanisms that you can use to keep your content routinely fresh and come in and kind of do these activities on a regular basis that works for your team to make sure that your knowledge base is growing in a healthy kind of way. All right, covered a lot of stuff there. Did we get questions coming in through the Q&A that we want to address at all, Esteban?
Not right now, Matt.
All right, great.
We're good. You're like quite specific and quite simple. So like, I don't know, people are like just following up.
Great. Awesome. I've got a share out here kind of asking for people to share with me and with others. I think one of the great things about these workshops is not only learning from me and hearing me droning on and on for hours, but also learning from each other, right? So if anybody's willing to share how you let your people contribute to your knowledge base, I would love for you all to maybe share out how you're letting people contribute to your knowledge base. Maybe you have really broad author permissions. Maybe you have a workflow to request information being shared. That maybe that workflow lives in Slack, or maybe you have your users comment on Guru cards. Anybody here willing to maybe share out how they let their team contribute to their knowledge base, or what their contribution system is? All right. I have paused for a long enough time. Christine, thank you. No workflow. Someone just tells an author in Slack to update something. Yeah, that's going to be hard to maintain long term, Christine. So definitely want to think about how you can systemize some sort of workflows. I see some other people add in here using the comment feature. We let managers author cards, have a Slack workflow and Google form to request new cards. That's really cool. But otherwise comment on cards to update them. So Christine, maybe there's some ideas that you're getting here for some other folks. Really appreciate you all sharing what you're doing here in the chat. I think it's really good for people to learn what other what other people are doing. So thank you all. Keep on sharing those out as I continue on here to KM principle number 2. Proactive documentation is not necessarily the best. All right. So what do I mean by that? Proactive documentation meaning you're documenting everything that you can think of ahead of, a feature release, ahead of an event, ahead of, something rolling out. It's often good to do, and people really try hard to really make awesome proactive documentation so that when they roll out that new feature or that new tool, that everyone's super equipped with all the information that they need. And sometimes that's true. Oftentimes it's not exactly true because when you're proactively documenting information, you really can't predict everything. You don't know exactly what's going to break in that feature or how people are going to understand that feature once they get their hands on it, or how people are going to understand that tool when they get their hands on it, and what questions that they're going to have. So a lot of the information in there won't be accurate to people's exact needs. And I'm sure, like, if there's any support folks in here, you've probably been in that world before where you've gotten some great documentation on a new feature release, but there's this weird quirk that's not really answered by the documentation that you've received, and you have to go and ask somebody more, a product expert that built that feature around, like, what's the expected behavior or something like that. And so we don't want to waste too much time doing everything we can to try and predict everything. So figure out what the sort of who, what, when, where, and why it makes sense for you and your team to proactively document, but don't sort of kill yourself with trying to think of every possible scenario or doing so much robust documentation. You have to kind of accept that, like, hey, I'm going to document what we know, and there's going to be a lot of unknowns despite my best efforts. And so it's going to lead me into the next KM principle here in a second, but you sort of need to kind of understand that we can't predict everything, and so let's document what we need, what we know, and where it makes sense to document what we know before, an event or before, a new hire onboards or a tool rollout or something like that. But really, what you want to think about is having a defined process for reactive documentation, because we can't predict everything, and because there's always going to be new learnings coming in all the time. Having a process for taking those learnings, for taking those questions that you're getting from your team, your users, from your customers, and being able to quickly turn that information into codified knowledge articles that you can easily search and find in something like Guru is what's going to be really key to success here. So let's take a look at some ways to create sort of a refined process for reactive documentation here with a couple different examples. And these are all examples that you would obviously want to document inside of a Guru card of sort of how you all expect people to contribute, or what your plan is for reactive documentation, and train your teams and your users on this sort of process. So example number 1 is probably the most common sort of process, and I saw lots of people in the chat sort of reflecting this this overall kind of approach to knowledge management, which is that experts are the primary creators. It makes sense, right? They're the ones who know the most about their given area. That's why they're experts. And so your experts are going to maybe do things like schedule weekly reports from our analytics to see searches that are producing results and searches that are producing no results, so that then they can also review flagged and unflagged, or flagged and unanswered questions in the AI Training Center. So these are 2 places in sort of Guru. You can go in our analytics and our AI Training Center to see what users are searching for and finding, and searching for and not finding. And you can use those areas to inform your approach to documentation by telling you, well, people are looking for this inside of Guru, but they're not finding it. So I need to add some information about that topic to a Guru card, or create a new card about that information, or maybe connect a new source that holds the information about the areas that they're asking about, so that they can find that information inside of Guru. They also need to experts will also add content to existing cards whenever possible, create new cards as needed to address gaps, and then keeping a log of those activities is something that some of our customers do, which I think is a really valuable exercise to do, so that you can document how much time your experts are spending on knowledge, how many cards they're updating, how many cards that they're creating, and that will show your managers and your leadership that you're creating these resources to close knowledge gaps, that you are performing actions that are saving the rest of the team time, that are enhancing efficiencies in other places, and will also help you if you feel like you're strapped as a sort of content expert and you're maybe the one and only person on your team that can create knowledge, and you feel like you're dedicating all your time to this. The more you document that sort of log activities, the more you can effectively advocate for additional assistance or for a different approach to documentation that's maybe more democratized and opens it up to other people to contribute to the knowledge base as well. Cool. And then we can also see another sort of example that can kind of actually go hand in hand with the sort of example that I just shared. But another way to kind of close knowledge gaps is that team members forward unanswered questions that they maybe asked in Slack, or incorrectly answered questions that were asked in Slack to a specific Slack channel. And then from that Slack channel, you can do something like a Zapier automation, which is going to maybe automatically create a card draft for specific experts, who are responsible for those types of questions that were asked and unanswered or answered incorrectly. And maybe it populates a card draft as a task in their project management system, something like Monday or Airtable or Asana or something like that. You can do all that with Zapier, so you can kind of create this sort of nice, easy to use sort of workflow where somebody asks a question, doesn't get an answer, gets forwarded to a specific channel, and automatically you've got something in your queue as an expert to create documentation to fill that knowledge gap or to answer that question. And then you probably want to have a standard sort of time period in which you're expected to actually add the answer to that question to an existing card or create a new card to answer that question. And so, I've seen teams have that be a couple of days, have it be a week or two, whatever's going to make sense for you all, but having a defined period of time so that your users just know when to expect an answer to that question that they maybe are really hungry for an answer for. So that's another sort of flow and an example you can have to sort of reactively document information and close knowledge gaps. The third one is a sort of KCS program, or as we like to say, KC-ish kind of program, which is definitely more common, where you're taking sort of elements of a KCS program. For those that don't know about KCS, it's okay. Don't worry about it. I'm going to just talk about the highlights here. Basically, it's a system of documentation, of knowledge management that revolves around your whole team contributing to your knowledge base. And in order to do that effectively, the first thing that they need to do is search early and search often so that they're not creating redundant information. So they're going to search, the actual question that they're getting from a customer or prospect in a ticket. They're going to try different ways of asking the question in different search terms to make sure that there's nothing out there that already exists that can answer their question. And then if they don't find anything, they're maybe going to comment on cards, or they're going to edit existing cards or create cards in the moment of learning. So as they're working that customer ticket, or as they're on a call with a prospect, they're jotting down notes that they're going to incorporate into a card immediately, so that people can go ahead and use that information right away, and so that it's just part of their workflow. It's part of their day-to-day actions of sort of as they go along in their workday, they're creating new cards, they're editing existing cards, and constantly contributing to the knowledge base. And part of that structure is having coaches or managers that are going to look at random samplings of what people are adding to the knowledge base and make sure that they're doing it in a way that they want it to be done. So that are they, formatting their card? Are they using the right card templates? Are they formatting the cards and titling the cards appropriately? And once you start to see people kind of get the hang of it, then you can sort of graduate them to, kind of authors that can maybe publish cards officially, or they can, verify cards or do extra activities like that. But this is a very complex process to do a full KCS program. Not many teams I work with do a full-blown KCS program, but there are elements of the process that I kind of call out here that are really helpful in terms of thinking about how you can get everybody to contribute to your knowledge base so that it's not funneled through a couple experts that maybe are bottlenecking the process, and that you're going to get more learnings because you're allowing everybody to sort of contribute to the knowledge base. There's obviously some things that can go wrong with that process. For sure, not going to get into it, all the nuts and bolts of that program today. That could be its own workshop for sure. But I think there's nuggets here to take away, and to consider how you can sort of open up your knowledge base to everybody and allow everybody to contribute to all the learnings that they're getting sort of every day. All right. So the big question to keep in mind with developing a process for reactive documentation is the big question is, does your team know what to do when they can't find an answer? And so if the answer to that question is I don't know and I'm not sure, then that's a sign that you need to think about what your process for reactive documentation is and how you're going to close knowledge gaps and what you're going to do when people can't find the information that they're looking for. Where should they go? Who should they ask? How should they request information? All really good things to consider. All right, I got another share out here. Please put them in the chat. Raise your hand if you want to come off mute and speak to it. But I'd love to hear about your process for closing knowledge gaps. And while I wait for some more reactions in the chat there for people sharing their stories, let me check in with Esteban to see if anything came in through the Q&A or chat that we want to address.
Yeah, like pretty much when it comes to the chat, like we have like comments coming in, like like recommendations and best practices. And when it comes about like the QA, we have like just a question that came in about like if we have like say any automation when it comes about like keeping a log of activities. Definitely, well, you can like take in consideration and use it to take the advantage of the AI Training Center Plus analytics. That way, you can see what your team is doing. And from there, like of course, like take the necessary actions.
Yeah, totally. And if people are looking for like a activity kind of log in terms of like card revisions too, I will say that we have API endpoints that you can utilize for that as well. So if you want to keep better track of your revision history, we do have documentation in our developer page around how to do that with some of our API endpoints as well. Thank you, Esteban. I'm gonna check in on the chat here just to see what people are saying. Brittany reviews searches with no results once weekly, makes edits to existing cards. Most of the time, the searches with no results are just typos. Yeah, that can definitely happen, but it's good that you have that habit of doing that once a week. And Corey combs through the AI Training Center to view all the questions users ask the system. When he finds a question that asks that we don't have an answer for, they reach out to the author. Sorry, I lost my place here as other comments are coming in. Every author has different needs, so some are very comfortable documenting in Guru, and others need more guidance. Some people are remarking that they want to improve the system. Yeah, okay. Corey reaches out to the relevant expert to collaborate on making a card to answer that question. That's great. Awesome, Andrew. I love that system too. Use that to create a draft and follow up. This is great. Hopefully, people are checking the chat too for some of these great stories here and learning from other customers in terms of how they're closing documentation gaps or how they're closing knowledge gaps, rather. All right. Thank you all for sharing. Continue the sharing in the comments. It's really awesome. Keep the questions coming through the Q&A. As I move on to principle number 4, define what a good quality card means. And we're going to get into, I know people had challenges around designing content for AI or designing content that's easy for users to understand. And that's what we're going to talk about in this section here. So first thing, because you want to define what a good quality card means, you need to create a content standard guide and provide some good examples. So you need to basically say, here's what good looks like, and here's what good is, and that's what your content style guide is. It's showing the team, what you expect a card to have, what structure, what sort of aesthetic, tone of voice, even you expect your cards to have, standards around titling. you expect your cards to have. And maybe that varies for different teams. Maybe each sort of collection or each department has their own content style guide, or maybe you have a more universal one, or maybe you have a combination of both. But providing your authors, your experts, and everyone with standards around what you expect to be in a card, and providing them examples so that they can sort of judge their card versus a good card, is really helpful. So over here I have this content style guide that's an actual style guide that we have in our in our template gallery actually. So you can download this exact one if you'd like, and use that to get started with. And over here I have an example of what maybe a good card looks like, and we've got call out boxes, we've got bullet points, short sections, and emojis. It's very readable. Dividers makes it very easy to scroll through and delineate between different pieces of information. And it's in keeping with our internal style guide there. So providing both, and in your content standard guide, putting an example of what a good card looks like, or linking to a couple good looking cards, is going to be important there as well. And so in terms of defining what's good practice, and for Guru in general, and for catering to the AI search, here's some tips on that front. So when you're designing your cards, and you want to optimize the AI experience, so you want to get back the best possible suggested answers, with Guru, you want to think about your cards as either like mini prompts, if that's helpful for you, or for you, or what's more helpful to me is to think about your new hires. I think designing your cards with your sort of new hires in mind gets you in the sort of right state of mind with how much you need to spell things out, how literal you maybe need to be, and keeping in mind areas where you may have sort of tacit knowledge, that knowledge that you've just kind of accumulated from doing your job for however long you've been doing it, and how to sort of make that explicit. So when you're designing your cards, you kind of almost want to be thinking like, hey, if I were like somebody brand new to the company, could I like look at this card and understand it, or have a pretty good idea of at least the key concepts in the card? So you want to be deliberate and consistent with your wording, and your structure, so the AI can understand and use that content correctly. So, use the sort of same terminologies for different things that you may have. Make that tacit knowledge explicit. So if you have jargon, if you have sort of acronyms that are specific to your company that maybe are not easy to understand for someone who's like new to the company, you maybe want to spell those things out, and make that wording very clear. If you think about your card like a mini prompt, basically that means like you want to tell the AI sort of how to behave. So you want to sort of spell things out for the AI in a very like literal, but also kind of short, to the point, direct kind of way. So that it's not getting hung up on sort of flowery language that's maybe going to confuse the AI. You just want to be like simple, direct, really clear, to the point. You want to use like header and body formats, bullet points, which are going to be really effective not only for users to be able to just like read your information quickly, but it's also just going to be really easy for the AI to understand. Tables are great, but just be careful with too complex of tables, or the information that's in the tables, in terms of the ability for AI to understand it. It's just that a lot of times tables rely rather on implicit information more than explicit information to understand the sort of relationship between columns and headers. A lot of times there's some sort of implicit understandings there. So just be careful around like how your tables are structured and formatted, to make sure that those implicit relationships are a little bit more explicit, if you really want the AI to be able to understand it really well. And then you can sort of use this sort of audit, this tacit knowledge audit checklist, as a sort of way to think your way through your cards and make sure that there's not too much tacit knowledge in there, and areas where you might be able to improve, and make things a little bit more explicit, make things a little bit more easy to understand for not only your users, but also for the AI, which is mainly why you'd want to go through a checklist like this. And so you can ask yourself, is there missing context? Is there unexplained acronyms or jargon? Are next steps or owners unclear? References missing? Vague or general language? And there's some examples of all these over here. Yeah, keep an eye out for this kind of stuff. This deck will also be shared after this recording. So if you like this checklist and you want to grab a screenshot of it, you can now, but also I'll include the deck in the follow-up email as well. So you'll have this as a resource there too. So this should be a helpful sort of guiding post in terms of optimizing your content for the AI experience. And then you can also use AI to help you make your cards better for AI. So we have an AI assist, AI author assist feature inside of Guru, where you can highlight content and you can, tell the AI assist to decrease words, to shorten it, to reformat it into bulleted lists. You can even come up with your own custom prompts that you can turn into quick actions. I'll show an example of that actually. So I'm going to come in here to my Guru and I'm going to find a card that's around release notes, around knowledge agents, right? Let's say somebody wrote this terrible card. This is a terrible card because it's just a big chunk of text that's not easy to read at all, right? Like I don't want to look at this. And it's not in keeping with our style guide. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to, oh, it's got my draft from earlier in here already. Oh boy. Let me try again here. Well, it's just going to take me back to the same place. I don't know what I was expecting. Here, hey, look at that. The technical troubles didn't stop at the beginning of the call. I'm going to take this information and I'm just going to repaste this back in here because it's saved my draft just so you all can see what it can do. So I'm going to take this chunk of information here, and then I'm going to click this assist button here or here. And I've built a custom prompt that has a release notes template in it. So I've told the AI assist in the manage settings what a release notes card should look like and what sort of structure it should have. And now I've made it a custom action here in assist. So I can come in here and I can click this release notes option in my assist option, and it's going to completely restructure the content of that paragraph to match the sort of structure that I want it to have. So in addition to card templates, you can come up with these sort of templates or custom actions in your author AI assist so that now I've turned that paragraph chunk into this really readable, easy to digest feature release notes format that has all these different areas that I want it to have. That makes it a little bit more readable, cuts it up a little bit, and maybe it's not exactly perfect, but it gets me from point A to point X, and then I can get to point Z a little bit easier. So yeah, check that author assist feature out. If you want to build those custom prompts, you can do that in your manage settings, in your workspace preferences, and come on down to assist for authors, and then click this manage prompts button here. And then you can see the prompt that I've put in to develop a a the format that I want it to have, and then you can also come up with custom translations that are translating things to other languages that we don't have in Assist, or doing tons and tons of different actions. The options are really limitless here, but this is a good thing to sort of play around with if you want to add uniformity to your content. Come up with some prompts here that are going to format the cards that you want them in the way that you wanted them to be formatted. So when you're doing your card cleanups, you can do what I just did. You can highlight the cards that need to be cleaned up and reformatted, and apply your existing format that you've built here to those cards. So hopefully that all sort of made sense to everyone. Let me know if you have questions, and then also let me know what are some quality related challenges you're experiencing. People have already put in the chat. Um, authors sort of do things differently on different teams. Curious to hear if anybody's had any other sort of kind of quality related challenges when it comes to creating content that's suited for AI or easy to understand and easy to read. While y'all are doing that, Esteban, let me check in with you again to see if there's anything that's come through the Q&A that we want to address.
Yeah, the Q&A came one question like from Katie, just like talking about like what is the best way or recommendation. I think you mentioned about like doing the comments when it comes about like getting collaboration among your team, but more like let's say for that frontline teams. So instead of course of coming in and making the audits, they can always like do the comments, and let me like just share like this specific article into our chat, so like people can take a look at those like comments and how to use those.
Yeah, awesome. Great. Yeah, we'll talk about some other practices here in a second too to get to garner engagement from your team as well. Cool. Thank you all for sharing. Resistance. Brittany said that there's resistance to using callouts or collapsible sections instead of writing it in like a Word document. Hopefully, AI Assist can make that easier for you to fix. Yes, you can definitely tell the AI assist to add, collapsible sections or call out boxes in certain areas. That should definitely be possible there. So hopefully that can make your life a little bit easier. And then, all right, last principle here before we jump into breakout groups really quickly. Basically, this is just saying that your knowledge base is ever growing, so you're going to have to constantly review, adjust, and retrain. Don't think that you've built a knowledge system that's perfect and it's going to be perfect forever, right? Because knowledge is because markets change, your business changes, processes change, so your knowledge is changing. Everything's always in flux, everything's always fluid. So you need to make sure that your knowledge base is nimble, that you have a sort of apparatus in place that's going to make it easy for your team to adapt to changes in your organization, people leaving, people coming and going, products changing. So think about how your knowledge management system can adapt to those circumstances really easily. And so you want to communicate. In order to do that, one of the things that you need to do is communicate the value of knowledge management to everyone. So the what's in it for me question, right? You need to think about that for users who are going to be contributing to the knowledge system. What's in it for them? What are they going to get out of it? They're going to be able to find what they need more easily. The more people that are contributing and giving knowledge to the knowledge base, the more easily they'll be able to find answers to their questions more quickly and do the job that they need to do. But also, what's in it for your managers? What's in it for leadership? What are the business outcomes that a good knowledge management system at your company is going to produce? Oftentimes, it's time saved kind of related efficiencies, or improved CSAT scores, or improved negotiation times, or decreasing or decreasing onboarding times. These kinds of things. And then you also want to consider a knowledge council. A couple people in the chat have already remarked about how they already have a knowledge council. I mentioned knowledge council earlier. Basically, it's a regular meeting of people and experts, different department stakeholders that are meeting regularly to close knowledge gaps, to establish and maintain workflows. To have that meeting going, consistently is really valuable. A lot of times, the Knowledge Council, maybe stood up and it may last a couple months and then it might fizzle out, or, there's not enough buy-in, so people don't do the activities. But if you can get a Knowledge Council going that's really endorsed by leadership and that's really, that's filled with people that understand the value of meeting regularly to address these needs that come up. When you have a big organizational shift, like an acquisition, or a big class of new hires coming in, or a new product launching, you're going to have a system in place that's going to make it really easy for you to adapt to those big changes, so that your knowledge council can get ahead of the curve with establishing new experts, new owners of content, building new collections, closing knowledge gaps, doing routine sort of maintenance like archiving and cleanups and reformatting and those kinds of things. So really consider how you might be able to stand up a knowledge council, whether that's small and it's just for your specific sub team, or whether it's org wide or semi org wide and incorporates multiple different teams. Having that apparatus in place is just a really good practice to have as your company undergoes constant change. Your knowledge will be able to adapt and stay fresh and stay up to date along the way. All right. 10 minutes. We don't have 10 minutes. I'm going to give us about 5 minutes. Basically, I just want us to get all to get together in these different breakout groups to essentially just share ideas about what you want to change, based on what you learned here today. So it could be a simple addition of your feature to your repertoire. Maybe you really liked the AI assist feature that you hadn't heard of before. That's great. Maybe you want to do a top to bottom overhaul of your approach to knowledge management based on some of the things that we have here. And then might be a good exercise for you all to think of like what's in it for me type responses to that question from different people. So I am going to, this may be biting off more than I can chew at this point here. um, uh, where is the breakout groups option? We changed the format of these workshops recently, and it has been a challenge to figure out how to do all the things that I want to do. Okay. Forget the breakout groups. Let's just do a broad share. So you can share with me in the channel. Thank you all for sticking around. For those of you that need to hop, but share your stories just here in the chat, or if you want to raise your hand, come off mute, share one thing that you learned here today. Would love to hear it, or any questions that you all have. Feel free to come off mute, and we'll just make this a sort of open questions, open learnings, share back here. So I'd love to hear from you all, sort of what you're thinking about changing based on today's conversation. Absolutely. Thank you all for joining. And if we don't have any takers on this front, any questions are welcome too. Okay, Brittany, you're the lone verifier for hundreds of cards, but you're not the SME for all of them. Looking forward to reorganizing our verification ownership, assignments, and processes. Yes, yeah, definitely seen that situation before. It's not fun to be the only person who's verifying your card, especially when you don't even know if the information is right or accurate. So I think you're going to want to think about how to get buy-in to maybe a sort of knowledge council structure, or how to get buy-in from other teams to start contributing to the knowledge base, and be the owners of the content that they're experts on. So getting buy-into that program obviously differs from company to company, but maybe other people have had success here with getting buy-into the knowledge program, and I'd love to hear how other people are doing that. And again, if anyone wants to come off mute, I can do that for you as well. People are loving templates, tacit knowledge audit checklists. That's great. I'm glad those are going to be helpful for you all. I like the idea of having a dedicated knowledge committee. Yes, absolutely. I think that's really, really important to have. Yeah, Katie's been there for you as well. Yeah, we can also keep this conversation going in our community as well. So if you all have want to connect with each other after this workshop, definitely recommend checking out the community page. We can sort of keep this conversation going. And yeah, I'm seeing it's looking like there's good learnings here from other folks. Brian, I see your question, or sorry, I saw a question in there about template that will help with the PDF printouts. I don't know of one off the top of my head, Carol. Apologies, but maybe right into our tech support team with sort of what the trouble that you're having is exactly, what your sort of end goal might look like, and we might be able to help you out there. I know some folks use PDF printouts, but it's not maybe the most common use case for some cards, but we'll see what we can do there. Is there a Microsoft Teams integration for the Knowledge Agent, or is that only with Slack? Currently only with Slack in terms of getting automatic responses. We'll definitely be thinking, the product team's definitely thinking about getting that experience into Teams as well. But currently only agents can automatically answer questions in Slack, Katie. Cool. I'm just going to send out two quick polls for folks here. So the first poll is just let me know if you found this session helpful and useful, for those of you that stuck around. I know I lost some folks after I put out there that we might go into breakout groups, scared some folks away. So I'd love to hear if this was useful or not for you. Documentation's a really broad topic, and there's a lot of different sort of areas that could be addressed here. And we're going to learn more about how other customers are doing this in next week's workshop. So you'll hear from 3 customers: Momentum Life Sciences, Travel Perk, and Lemonade, that are going to share their stories around documentation best practices. So definitely check out that workshop next week if you want to hear from actual customers how they're closing knowledge gaps, how they're keeping their trust score at 100% and keeping a solid knowledge structure in place. And then last poll here is what was your biggest takeaway from this workshop? So a lot of you already shared this in the chat. That's great. This is just another way of sharing that some of your key takeaways with me, so that I can sort of learn what you all found valuable here and incorporate these learnings into future workshops, or address things that we didn't get to address here in future workshops as well. So if you didn't find this workshop super valuable, let me know here as well. Yeah, give me that feedback around what you would have liked to have seen that we didn't cover here. And I'll do my best to rectify that situation in future workshops here. But I really appreciate you all participating. Thanks for all the conversations in the chat. Check out our workshops coming up. If you have more questions and want to dig deeper on anything here, come to our monthly release roundup and office hours at the end of this month on Friday, April 25th. Our CEO and co-founder Rick Nucci is going to be there, so you can hear straight from the source about best practices, about how we're thinking about AI here at Guru. Anything you want to ask Rick, you can come and ask. He's really great guy, super easy to get along with. Don't be scared or intimidated. Come on over to that office hours, and we'll do a monthly release roundup at the start of that session too, where I'll talk about all the releases that have come out in April. And then in the week in between the office hours and the workshop next week with the customers, I'll be doing a feature focus session where we'll just be talking about permissions. So there's some new updates that are coming and have already come out with our permission structure. So I'll talk to that specifically. So if you have questions about permissions, want to learn more about that, come on in there. All right, y'all. Thank you all so much. We are at time. Appreciate you all attending and participating. This was great. Really awesome action in the chat. Thank you all so much. Hopefully you got a lot out of this. And hope you all have a great rest of your day and a great rest of your week. Take care.